The future of fashion, intelligence, design, retail, tech. Four power nodes that are charging fashion retail today. Joining us for this session is the chairman of India Fashion Forum 2017 and the managing director and the CEO of Arvind Lifestyle Brands Limited. May I request all of you to please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Suresh J.
Good morning to all of you. I think it's my privilege to take over as the chairman of the Indian Fashion Forum, and particularly in a year, I think, where I think all of us are trying to reinvent the fashion industry. So what I want to do over the next maybe the 5 to 10 minutes is to little bit, talk about what is in store for us in terms of the market, and then there are no four notes which has been given. I will sort of simplify those four notes and see what are the things we should really remember and make sure that we sort of internalize and then live those four things as we reinvent this retail industry. I think the good news, I want to start with a very, very positive news, particularly at a time when there is a lot of gloom on demonetization, and then the main question when you come and meet anyone is how much sales has dropped. I think maybe it's a temporary kind of a scenario, but if you really look at, I'm not even talking about a very long term, but even if you look at a medium term, maybe 6 months down the line, I think things are going to be much, much different. And I just have one chart, which you are seeing it on the screen. India is going to be a real outlier as far as fashion is concerned. Because if you really look at most of the other countries, including China, they've all sort of grown quite well. And in fact, if you take the last 10 years of the worldwide growth of fashion industry, it's around 5%. Then you contrast that to India, and as you could see from this chart, India is a real outlier in terms of growth. And it's projected to grow between 8 to 9%. This is the total industry. But when we come to the organized retail, it's even more than 8 to 10%. It's going to be anything between 13 to 15%. So that's a good news that we are actually operating, particularly those from the fashion industry here, actually operating in a very, very large market, already a very large market. All of you know that it's already a $60 billion market. I'm saying it in billion because saying it in crores, it's a very, very large number. And growing at around 9% overall market and 13% the branded market. So we are looking at a market which is going to go to around $110 billion. And in terms of the branded fashion industry, it's likely to go to $40 billion, moving from $10 billion. Overall market going up by more than 2 times, and the branded market going up by 4 times. There are many reasons. I don't have to, all of you are very, very familiar with the Indian market, so I'm not really getting into the details of what is going to drive this growth. But very clearly, the change in the income pattern is the biggest driver of growth as far as fashion is concerned. Because India used to be a pyramid in terms of income, with a very large cross-section of households below the poverty line. But that is going to change. And you are going to find the belly of the market, the middle class and the upper middle class, going to really increase. The whole shape of the income segmentation of the country will change from being a pyramid into a diamond. And as a result, I think there is going to be a good growth. And you are going to see that happening, particularly when the per capita. This has been seen in the other countries, particularly China, which is the closest, because we are typically 10 to 12 years behind China. And in terms of per capita income, again, we are today 10 to 12 years behind China. And when China per capita income touched the $2,000 mark, I think there is a big spurt in the consumption of fashion products and more of the branded fashion products. So we are on the cusp of that. We probably lost a couple of years because of slow growth in 2014-15. But we are now moving towards the $2,000 mark. And today, China is at around $5,000. And their size of the market is 3 times our size today. So we are very much there in terms of becoming a very, very large fashion market and more in the organized space. So that is the size of the market and the good news. And how do we really make sure that we really win in this market? Because it's not going to, just because the size of the market is there, it's not that, we are going to win it by doing the same things. I think Harish said the context in terms of various disruption in retail. And we have also said as the fashion forum, in terms of 4 notes, which will really charge the fashion industry. I'll sort of, simplify that and make it easy to remember. I call that as, I would say, ABCD of fashion. What is really required, the 4 factors which I call it as ABCD, which is going to really drive fashion industry or reinvent fashion industry as we go forward. And the winners actually will be those who will do this ABCD very well. What are those ABCD? The first, A, is all about analytical. One has to be absolutely analytical today. I'm sure that all of us know that in, say, a Kirana store, a successful Kirana store actually win by being analytical because he knows the neighborhood, he knows the requirement of his customers. So what we are talking about analytical is exactly the same philosophy extending to a larger consumer base. With the kind of big data and analytical capability the computers give today, I think there is a huge opportunity for us to understand the consumers and really position, whatever we want to do in line with what the consumer wants. So, and this is not just about just about the consumer, it's also about the back end. Because a lot of money in the fashion industry gets wasted actually in the back end. And we can do a lot of work in the whole supply chain space and make it, very, very data-driven rather than gut feel-driven. Because the fashion industry has been largely gut feel-driven, but it will become very, very data-driven as we go forward. So being analytical both for the back end as well as front end is going to be very, very critical for success of retail as we go forward. The second node, which is the B, is all about buy now. Because, again, the fashion industry is one industry which is very used to very long lead times. I think that kind of privilege, fashion industry will no longer be having. It's all about, you see, consumer want to see something. For example, most of the fashion companies used to have roadshows 6 months, 9 months before the season, and then put the product maybe 10 months later. I don't think that is the kind of cycle which is going to win. The companies with that kind of a cycle is going to win in the future of fashion retail. It's all about buying now. We need to really change our supply chain system if we are to really succeed. We need to quicken the faster. Our go-to-market speed has to be substantially different from what it is today. If you're talking about a fashion cycle of 9 months, it is now shrinking to 3 months. We should be able to, with good analytics, able to convert something during the season, what is doing well, and then actually sell it during the season. So that is going to be a very, very important second success factor. The C, which again, very important, is the entire compliance part, which is actually not part of the technology bit, which is there as a theme for the fashion forum. But I think this compliance part is going to play a very, very critical role in fashion. And this compliance will go in multiple stages. I think immediately we are seeing one compliance in the space of demonetization. The next one will come with GST, because the business models which were built with the advantage of some of the compromises on compliance, they'll fail. Very important that any player who wants to win the market, in the future, should learn to do the business with compliance. And this compliance actually will move to social compliance, because sometimes we compromise in terms of social compliance, the kind of the units with which we work. But that is not going to happen as we go forward, and then it will move to the environmental compliance. So compliance is going to play a very, very critical role in the success of fashion industry as we go forward. Coming to the last, which I think is the entire technology part, I'm sure you would have guessed it. It's all about D is all about digital. I think digital is going to encompass the entire the value chain of the fashion industry, because you are dealing with actually the digital natives. The new consumers are completely in the digital, operate in the digital world. So whether it is a question of omni-channel, which I think is not a sort of something which is like a specialty you should have or something. It will become a norm. And some of the things which Harish mentioned in his presentation about real technology in understanding how the consumer is shopping and then sort of changing your experience or retail experience to suit the way the consumer is shopping. Then the entire the back-end part, how you're going to digitize the entire supply chain is going to play a very, very critical role for the success of fashion. So quick summary, I think the good news is I think India is going to be an outlier in the fashion market, large market, going to grow quite well compared to the other countries. And I think the good thing is everyone is now, we always used to say that we are pretty young in fashion industry. We are just starting. But now I think everyone is coming on the same plate. Because the entire, internationally also everyone is trying to reinvent. And I think we can actually reinvent with them, and somewhat similar to a telecom or which actually, we became cutting edge very soon. We will become cutting edge, very soon in the fashion. If all of us, really adopt, I would say that 4 notes, ABCD, which is being analytical, buy now kind of a concept in terms of supply chain, the compliance and the digital part. So that's what I wanted to mention, and this is what is going to be really the theme of the Fashion Forum, the 17th Fashion Forum, which will happen in February of next year. And I'm sure that this is what I will push the organizers to really transfer the knowledge to the fashion industry at large in terms of how do we utilize this 4 notes, ABCD, to really win in this fashion market. So thanks a lot. So that's what I wanted to talk, and I don't know whether we have any time for questions. Sure.
Gentlemen, we have time for one question, so if you do have...
Hi sir, my name is Srikanth, I'm from Spencer's.
Yeah.
Yeah, fashion industry major threat is this copycats or infringement or counterfeit. How the industry, because fashion is all about the label as a brand. How this industry is going to set up, because if you see your brand CK, the shop sells 10 shirts, but in the market there are 100 people wearing these shirts. So how the industry will going to counter these measures?
No, I will, see, I will give my own experience. What we typically realize is as long as the brand is not in the market, you find more duplicates. But once the brand comes into the market, it comes down. That is not to say that it is not there. There are, I think, 2 kinds of action. One action, of course, is we keep doing raids and all that. But it's not, I mean, infringement and duplicates are not limited to the fashion industry. I think it's there with every single industry, including FMCG, which I think is rampantly, duplicated. So we keep doing this one. We can, I mean, at least we can say from our brand's point of view, we have controlled it largely. I will never be able to say that we have controlled it completely. But some of the brands like US Polo is one brand which gets very, very frequently duplicated. That I think we practically have a raid once a week. That's the kind of raids we do. So we have sort of controlled. But on the other side, I think the compliance which I talked about will make a big difference. Because when the GST comes, they have to anyway, even if they make a duplicate, they have to buy a fabric. And if they have to claim an input credit on the fabric, then they have to declare somewhere. So that is going to make a big, so that's why, for the fashion industry, for anyone to succeed, I think compliance is going to play a very, very crucial role. That's going to be a longer term solution. We have seen that happening even in this demonetization. There is a market in Delhi called Gandhinagar, where almost 50 lakh pairs of denims are sold. There are genuine brands. I'm not saying there are duplicates there, but some of the brands are duplicates there. That industry has come to a complete standstill because of the because it's completely a cash market.